Did you end up with the short rib? What did you do?
Yeah, I jumped on the short rib bandwagon. The salmon was my pick, and then Mitchell, who was next to me, got some advice from the server. She's like, "Go short rib, no question." I think everybody ended up with, or not everybody, most everybody ended up with short rib from what I saw. I saw maybe a piece of venison and chicken, but the rest.
Yeah, I've done the short rib there before. That's a known one to me. I'm like, all right, I know I can't go wrong with the short rib, but I hadn't done the venison before. I wanted to try that, and it was delicious. You know, it was an exquisitely well cooked piece of meat, just seared, red to purple throughout, just exactly what I'm looking for. So now that we're
intended,
damn straight. I mean, sometimes that's just what you need. And speaking of, sometimes you need a good steakhouse.
That's true.
What are what's a go-to road steakhouse for you?
The usual. You hit the nail on the head. Like traveling for work, especially, kind of start living at steakhouses. There was one week a couple months ago where 3 nights in a row were at steakhouses. Same thing. Like I could order blind for, I don't need a steakhouse menu to order for the table. Like we'll get some bacon steaks, 2 orders of bacon steaks. Let's get some broccolini going, some lobster mac and cheese.
Yep. There you go. A little seafood to start.
Yeah.
Especially if you got a smaller group, queuing up some oysters.
Yes.
I think that's a favorite. Like I love, you get into a steakhouse, you saddle up. You know, I especially if, it's on the corporate account or even if it's not, but going in, queue up some oysters, old fashions, like that just sets the tone. I love that. It's the moment, it's the pre-steak excitement where everything just gets like, oh yeah, having some drinks, food's starting to come out, and you're going to just be, you're going to be leaving happy, as fat and happy.
Yeah, I think Maestro's is always a winner. Capital, like all STK. Yeah, it's like you end up going to a lot of the same cities, right? Like Dallas, Austin, Miami, Vegas, and have those good corporate plus steakhouses to choose from.
Vegas, it's like every single hotel there has some phenomenal steak spot, which is so much fun to be able to just roll from, room to steakhouse and then go play some cards. Yeah. It's just all under one roof.
I do like Atlanta too, though. So Hal's Steakhouse in Atlanta, It's one of the older ones, and I went there with Courtney and Matt.
Yeah.
A while ago. It was like 2 summers ago. So good. Just like old school white dinner jacket service. Like we were there 3.5, 4 hours. That's great. And then Little Alley Steak is in Buckhead, and it's newer. It's like more glass and metal as opposed to like hardwood interior.
Yeah, gotcha.
But so good. And that was the 3rd steakhouse we went to in the trio that we did that trip, and best seafood tower I've had in a long time.
Ooh, this is high marks.
Yeah.
This is getting notated.
Yeah, highly recommend. So with steakhouse action for work usually comes travel.
Yep.
So how often are you traveling for work?
This year, not all that much. I'd say once a quarter this year. Years past, it's been more frequent, probably once a month. So right now it's a little pared down, which I'm not too upset about. I had a good few years of being out on the road really, really frequently. So this is kind of a nice, this is a nice reprieve at this moment. But you're on the road a lot these days.
Yeah, a ton. More than I ever have been. And I love it. I love traveling. I like the routine of it. My mom hates Atlanta Airport. I love Atlanta Airport. In my mind, it's just so efficient, easy, plenty of food options.
I can't disagree with you there. Everyone likes to hate on Atlanta. And I'm always like, it's a good airport in my eyes. Charlotte also catches a lot of unnecessary flack in my opinion. I have no objection to CLT.
Yeah, my only objection is that there's a lot of American metal flying through there, and I have an ongoing grudge against American Airlines. I've flown with them. I've attempted to fly with them twice in the last 2 months, and just didn't work out. One got canceled, the other was punted 6 hours, and I ripped the cord like an hour of delays in.
Is like that's a traveling horse sense that you start to develop. Like you start understanding the patterns of how the airlines go, and if you get a bump early in the day, you might as well. You're not, if you have a afternoon flight or an evening flight and you see like a 30-40 minute delay or an hour delay early in the day, you got to go. You just rebook it.
Yeah,
just bump it out a day. That's one of those travel things that saved me a lot of heartburn recently, because it kills me when I accidentally spend or unintentionally spend 8 hours in an airport while flights just get pushed back, and then inevitably canceled.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. There's some instinctiveness that comes into play there, and you travel enough and you have enough hiccups and kind of figure out the process to handle things. And having status helps a ton too.
Having status helps. And also, if you ever used Minute Suites,
once before, yeah, in Atlanta.
Yeah, Minute Suites. If you end up in that situation, especially when you're traveling for work, maybe at a big old steakhouse dinner, maybe you're whining and dining, you're a little dinged up getting home, and you start getting hit with those delays, I will Minute Suite that if I'm already at the airport. Just go take like a 2-hour power nap. Mm-hmm. And that is so nice.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. Any packing wise,
dude, packing's never easy, especially if you look at most of the conferences, at least a lot of the stuff that we frequent. You're typically wearing a suit for 2 or 3 days, so you're like, all right, I've got to find a way to get like 2 to 3 suits into my carry-on. I'll usually wear a nice pair of loafers through the airport so that I don't have to worry about packing them. And then I'll pack another pair of dress shoes to alternate. And then I'll just bring like flip-flops are so easy to just sneak on in. So I'll just bring those for incidentals and whatnot. And then a pair of workout shoes. The best travel for packing, I think what I've learned is packing less and always keeping like a little bit of detergent with me so that I can just wash stuff in the hotel, the sink or the bathtub, and just be like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I can wash stuff if I need to. But it's always just, I've honestly not found an elegant solution to getting 3 suits in a carry-on.
Yeah, there's no good way to do it. I've started checking a bag more frequently, especially this year. I've checked a bag more than I have my whole life.
Well, especially if you got status, so you just get the free check bag. So I have a really funny story about that, because when I started traveling a lot for work and I got status, I got used to checking a bag all the time. I was just like, I earned this. I'm checking a bag even when I don't need to. And I got so used to just walking off the plane and not worrying about it. I was going to visit my parents in Florida last year, and I had a few drinks before the flight. It was a nice Friday, beautiful Friday in Charlotte. Figured I'd have a few drinks at the lounge, and then I had another drink on the plane. And I walked off the plane and went down to go get my luggage and realized I didn't check a bag. I left my carry-on on the plane. And long story short, ended up having to do a little bit of shopping to have some clothes for the weekend. And luckily my bag showed up in Philly a few days later and got it mailed to the house. So it all's well that ends well. But I get endless crap about remembering my carry-on from friends and family now.
That's fair. That has to be a gut-wrenching feeling when you're like, oh no, I don't have my bag. It's back on the plane, which I cannot go back on. They will put a bullet in the back of my head if I try to get on that airplane.
Oh, trust me. And especially, like, I was a little panicky too. Like, there's no great way to be like, panicky going and trying to find TSA agents. Like, I need to get back on the plane.
They were hitting all the red buttons of the airport. Like, no, tactical team for that. We got a big one.
Trust me, I was West Palm. West Palm was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any packing strategies? Like, if you got a conference, what are you tucking away in there? Is there anything that you can't forget, other than just the obvious stuff? But is there anything unique that you're like, can't forget this?
Probably the biggest, like, if I landed and I didn't have it, would be the toiletry kit. Like, specifically my toothbrush, like Sonicare toothbrush.
Oh yeah,
like live and die by the Sonicare, not the old manual toothbrush.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because guess who has 2 thumbs and forgot his toothbrush? This guy.
There's a pattern here.
There is, but this same deal. I've done that too many times, and now I just have a second one that I keep that lives in my backpack.
Yeah, I've started doing that. I keep deodorant in my backpack.
Yeah.
Sunglasses, sleep mask. That's another one for travel, because you never know. Like, usually, fortunate last company and this company, usually staying at some nice hotels. Mm-hmm. And so blackout curtains are usually par for the course. But if you go to, I won't drop names, then, hotel's a shit show.
Yeah.
And especially middle of the summer there, when it's 114 degrees outside and the sun's just beating through the window, and you don't have blackout curtains, like a sleep mask comes in handy.
I would agree. Sleep mask. There's a couple of medicinal things that I think every traveler needs to have. You always want to keep some anti-inflammatories and some a non-drowsy anti-nausea. I think those go a long way. Again, especially if you're whining and dining, you're putting stuff in your body that maybe most people, I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume most people aren't eating 24 ounces of ribeye on a super regular basis and knocking back some cocktails. So you do that, you add the travel in, you add in the fact that you're probably up on your feet all the time, having some of those and some electrolyte powder.
Electrolytes huge. Yeah, this year I started traveling with it, my toiletry kit. I'll keep element packets, and that's been so great. You wake up the next morning after a couple hours of sleep. You're like, fuck, this is like the big conference day one. Usually conferences are like first night's a networking thing. Next day is a full conference day. And then if it's...
Yeah, day one is really the proper day to hit it hard.
Yeah, definitely. You shoot your shot early that first night, and then you're waking up and you're like, I haven't even developed an ounce of business and I feel like absolute garbage.
That is, I think, the worst case scenario is being day 2, day 3 in a conference and the crowd just keeps getting smaller and smaller and you're just still trying to find your ins and, connect with who you want to connect to, and it starts feeling real scrambly. You start getting to the point where all the vendors are talking with each other, and at that point, the show is pretty much, the goose is pretty much cooked at that point.
Yeah, that's super fair.
Yeah. What would be like your typical conference prep look like?
Yeah, I think a big thing is, attacking the networking app as soon as it's launched.
Yeah.
And it's a numbers game too. So identify who's in my world. For me, it's mortgage brokers and lenders who are looking to table fund. Mm-hmm. And so it's trying to make those connections on the app. Also dialing broker relationships I have in those markets ahead of time.
Yeah.
Say like, hey, I'm be in town for this conference. I'm going to one in Nashville this coming Sunday, so a week from today. And have had those conversations with Nashville brokers. So doing that legwork up front, you can just show up to a conference and get business, be successful, but it takes so much of the stress off if you have some meetings set ahead of time.
100%. Yeah. Being able to, I think that's also great, even if you have, connections in that market that aren't even attending, but still it's like, well, you're going to be there. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be reaching out to those people and get them out for dinner or something like that. I think that's probably my number one. Like I can think of a few people where it's like, all right, I know you don't even go to these conferences, but if I'm going to be in your area, then I'm going to take, a few hours post conference to go, meet up with you, take you out to dinner, see how things are going. So I think that's a really good way to try and maximize. Again, I think, there's obviously the dollars and cents return, but sometimes that feels a little loose, abstract. We're not the accountants. we're not running that side of the show. So for me, it's like, all right, I want to just make it feel like this was a good use of my personal time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. That's a must. I'm trying to think of anything else. I've not done great about it in the few months I've been at the current firm, but when I was at the shop together with you, I would always, if I could make it work schedule wise, drop bags, go for a run, shower.
Ooh, that's a really good point to hit on, because I do try and maintain a pretty similar workout schedule when I'm on the road. And definitely can't always, I'm not always going to have access to the same stuff I'd have access to at home. But keeping a jump rope in my bag has been one of the better, relatively elegant solutions, even if, because sometimes you don't want to expend yourself so much before you have a 10, 12-hour day on your feet and a dinner afterwards. But just getting up and jumping rope for 20, 30 minutes just gets everything moving. Brain feels better. Hotel gyms are hit or miss. Mm-hmm. And especially with these conferences, if it's a good hotel gym, dude, everyone's hitting it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a mess. You don't even really want to try and use it. Mm-hmm. But getting a little bit of morning movement in has gone a really long way. And it also, it helps me hold myself accountable too, because if I promise myself on day 2 and day 3, I'm going to get up and get that done, it definitely helps me keep those nights in check. Just drink a little bit less, get to bed at a decent hour. It's fun, when everyone's out on the town, and some of these conferences can get rowdy, but there's a certain point at which you just got to keep it professional. In my opinion, there's, kind of a time in your life where it's fun to go out and do that. You get over it, and then, you just stick to being a pro.
Yeah. Some do, some don't.
Not hating. I'm just saying I had to find something that worked for me.
Exactly. Yeah. To that point, I'm notorious for being the first one to rip the cord. Even last night after dinner, we went to dinner at Wine Cellar, beautiful private dining room, 8 of us, had a blast.
Awesome.
Yeah. We went to another bar downtown after that, had a few drinks, and then I parted ways after that. I don't remember what time it was, but I was like, all right, just try to...
Respectable hour.
Yeah.
Respectable hour. You definitely got better sleep last night than I did, I would gather. I did not take my own advice. I decided to push it a little bit, but...
Yeah, some give and take there. It's like, I always get ribbed on about being the first one to bounce out, go night. But then the next morning, everybody's like, oh, I wish I would have ripped the cord when you did.
Exactly.
Went to bed.
You always get to look real smart the next day. And 2, with practice, it takes practice to get comfortable with like an Irish exit.
Yeah.
Once you do it, when you're doing it like the first time, you feel like that didn't feel right. And then you come to realize no one noticed. Mm-hmm. Once everyone's 6, 7 drinks in, no one's gonna notice. They're all too busy talking about themselves. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
So, like, if you want to go take care of your own shit, do it.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like I'll shoot eyes at my work poppy, be like, I'm out. And then usually there's some fight. So it's like, all right, no, I'm here for another drink or a couple more. It's like, all right, now I'm out. I'm gone. Now we're bouncing.
It's a dance.
Yeah, it's a science and an art.
Well, what are some other fun tack-ons to travel?
I like extending trips when you can. That's something too. Like if you have a +1, nice to bring them on a trip every once in a while. Room's already paid for. You pay for the flight.
No doubt.
Nice little value proposition.
Especially you get a room at the Lowe's.
Yeah. Did the same thing. I did that a couple years ago and just like walk out to the pool, be like, how's it going? You good? And then just completely envious because I am in a suit. It's hot. I'm in Miami. Go there all the time for work, and I just look at the ocean like, this is so beautiful. It'd be so nice if I could actually get in this thing, but I'm down here to do business.
I know. The Lowe's is one of my favorite, kind of regular spots that I make it to, and it is always a little painful being suited up, standing out there and just smelling the sea breeze and knowing that could be you.
You're like, I have enough resources. How am I in this box where I see this, I'm here, but I can't use it?
I work so that I can sit on a beach and have drinks. Yet here I am looking at the beach with drinks in a suit.
Nature of the beast. Yeah. Nature of the beast.
The dichotomy of being a sales professional.
Yeah. No, travel wise, we talked a little bit about like uniform wardrobe. So packing has become all the more easy now that it's like, what's the weather? Okay, I need a couple of t-shirts, grab a couple of t-shirts. It's not like rummaging through t-shirts. It's like I'll grab a white one, a black one, a green one. What's next?
Yep.
Like just go down the line.
Same with suiting and professional attire, just having stuff that all works together, avoiding the loud patterns and which again, just not in my opinion, not the time or place at a conference either. Every once in a while you see some crazy wardrobe picks. Like I can think like there's just a whole lot. How do I put this? There's a whole lot of dudes at conferences these days that need to talk to their tailors about the appropriate length of their trousers.
Yeah. Train wrecks rolling around these conferences. So God bless them.
Just like 4 or 5 inches of ankle on display is a crazy move.
Yeah, that I haven't seen these this year, but when I was traveling in my 20s, the money sign suits were a thing. There would always be a company or two of bros that were like, let's throw on some $sign suits that we got off Amazon.
Suits are brutal.
I'm just like, it's very cringe. Like,
yeah.
Not the vibe we're going for in this highly regarded space in which we inhabit and operate.
And another, like, a part of traveling and traveling with stuff like that too is also just like awareness of your surroundings. Mm-hmm. I'm always very conscious of that whenever I'm, especially in a new city and don't have my bearings yet. I'm not exactly super keen on getting stuck somewhere I don't know at odd hours with, the work laptop or watch I'm wearing, thousands of dollars of clothes in my bag. That's another one where I'm like, just keep your head on a swivel.
Let's wind her down with some depth. Production versus leadership pathway. So if you're in sales, that's kind of the eventual fork in the road. I think if you're in sales, everybody starts selling in sales. So everybody generally starts the production pathway. You don't just come from a non-revenue role into a sales leadership role. Right.
And usually you're only owning a part of the sales process too. Like you might just be, fielding inbound leads, or you might just be dialing outbound. Like usually you're just kind of responsible for one part of the sales process early on and later take on, closing responsibilities. But yeah, I'd say typically that's where everyone's starting in something like that.
Yeah. You and I, interestingly enough, are part of the exception to that because of the startup-ish environment we got into when we were there. It was like, you are now a producer. Go produce, top to bottom. Go call leads, build the book.
Oh, you got a college degree?
Got a JOB for you.
Get started.
The good old days. That was fun.
Yeah, started on the path of, like everyone does, well, a little bit differently in our case, where we were just pretty much starting in a closing role from the get-go, but really more in an inside sales environment. There are a few pivotal moments along the way that kind of kept me getting more and more entrenched in that part of the business, as opposed to starting to manage other salespeople. And part of it was definitely like intentional decisions on my part, and part of it was just seeing what was going on at the time, and kind of the balance of going, well, one of these things gives me a lot more autonomy and still gives me the ability to make potentially even more money. So why wouldn't I just keep doing this and keep doubling down on just running my own production? And that has been my mindset really up until this last year, where now I am managing a few people as well. And that's more so been just in a lot of ways for, my sanity, and just wanting to sort of flex some other mental muscles versus just staying in my own lane constantly. But I think there's a lot of, if you are good at sales and starting to, show some proof of concept that you can be a producer, it's almost inevitable that at some point the conversation's going to come up that, well, how would you like this management role? Almost regardless of whether or not you think you're going to be a good fit for it, that conversation's going to come to you almost inevitably. Maybe there will be some turnover at the company. Maybe the company will be growing and they need to create some more hierarchy, whatever. It could be a whole bunch of different things. But that conversation at some point is going to happen. And I think you and I have seen it play both ways, of really good sales reps go and end up becoming really good managers. And they go, all right, I like this. But also sometimes they go, dude, I never should have given them my own. I never should have stopped producing. I would have made so much more money. So we've seen that play both ways. And I think that comes down to, you got to know yourself and know what you're prepared for, and kind of know which types of your limits you want to push, because it's a little bit more of a slow and steady game, in my opinion, going the management route, because you are sort of usually, right, the way the comp plans are usually written is that you're trading some of the volatility and the big spikes for more of a consistent upward trajectory. And like, at least in my opinion, when I was 25, 26 years old, without a whole lot of responsibilities and overhead, there was, in my mind, no reason for me to give up the volatility and the higher risk associated with being a producer. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I went the leadership route, and it kind of always was my game plan, my hope, the pathway I wanted to go down. I love, if we pop open my Bumble and Hinge profile for the work section, it says, I architect industry leading sales channels.
No, it doesn't.
Hand to God.
Wow.
I'll show you.
I'm not going to lie. I thought it was going to be way worse. I thought it was
bad.
No, well, it's not factually inaccurate. It's, just, you are a true sales professional. You really talk about selling yourself right there.
I could put like private lending, this, that, and the other, but
big swinging sales daddy.
Yeah, that I need to make an update real quick. Yeah, I guess I could be more accurate. I architect industry-leading sales channels through which billions of dollars have flowed. Could get real on this.
Using the word architect is really what I think I need to focus on here.
So I did have build, and then I changed to architect. I was just bored one night, scrolling, swiping.
Goes from here to here.
I was, try to have a real accurate representation, and I like words. And I'm like, I'm in the architect stage of life now. I have built, I'm a builder, I'm like, there's a lot of experience and know-how now to go with all that, as opposed to figuring out. Anyway, way too much thought put into that.
No, this is important. This is, I mean, after all, that's just in many ways a true sales battleground.
This, from your lip to God's ears. Yeah. But the leadership side, I love it. I love, in my current role, I have some production as well, which I enjoy the beauty and the madness of it, right? Like, have one deal that this past Friday was Friday before holiday, and it was also last day of the month. And of course, we got partial dock package in from the closing company, not the whole thing, so we couldn't fund. It got pushed, and it was like 30 seconds of like, whoa. I think Andrew was over here and had my phone, and I was like, oh, it's like, whoa. Tapping that
last
Apple
day
Care.
of the month, baby.
Yeah. So I love the deal side. I'm a nerd who had PhD in economics aspirations when I got to Furman. I'm like that person in salesperson's clothing. So like I love guidelines. I love looking at a deal and trying to figure out, like, just synthesizing, like, what does this fit? What's the gray area? What are the compensating factors, the strongest points? What's underwriting going to like, not like? Like, I love that. But most of all, I love building things from scratch, like go climb this mountain. And that was really the first 6 months in after college, in my first role. That conversation was what put me down the leadership pathway.
Yeah, you kind of have always just like, the time and place that you found yourself in, you constantly, like, you had no other option than to build the bike as you were riding it.
Yeah.
And that seems like that, I still really see that, like, as, it almost like ignites a hunger, like it just gets your adrenaline going.
It really does. I have such less of an appetite for taking over or inheriting something. Mm-hmm. I just love, like, build it, because when it comes to work and deliverables and things that I produce, like, it lets my control freak nature, it's a channel for that, so it doesn't come out in my personal life and ruin relationships and friendships.
So you've now spent a good number of years leading sales teams. What are your takeaways for people that are going through maybe like the producer to management transition, or like that conversation's being broached to them about, hey, like you're a good account exec, or you're a good loan officer, like we want you to start, taking on like a team lead role, or maybe start shedding production responsibility and taking on a bigger team. How would you guide them through that?
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. You touched on it. Knowing yourself is huge. Like, if you want to have the biggest potential upside, then statistically or probabilistically, being a producer is going to be it. You're going to get the most bips, right?
I'm interested that you say that, because I'm not, like, I actually, like, when I think about how many people come into those roles and how many of them make it to the point of being real whales, I think it's a way steeper bell curve. And part of that's just because if you make it into the first rung of management, you've already cleared a lot of the field. Mm-hmm. But that's why I was like, that I'm interested to hear you say that. So keep going with what you were. I just want to interject there.
Yeah. So I think my take is, if dollar signs are the biggest thing, then being a producer, that's the safest route to go if that's your ultimate goal. And kind of to your point, not to say that you can't do really well on the leadership side, but it's a different structure and you do have some trade-offs. It's like, what do you find interesting? Like, are you really like who is just energized by selling? And it's like, for me, I have to have some puzzles thrown in. And I would be cool if, like, the puzzle side were all that I worked on, but I love the revenue side of the business. And I kind of am a sicko who loves the gun to the back of the head for production targets. And like, it's just, I like the scoreboard, the black and whiteness of it. It's like, you really
100%. Yeah. I mean, you've been a baseball guy your whole life. Like, it's the scoreboard, baby.
Yeah.
Revenue cures all pain at the end of the day. And I do think, like, there's the acknowledgement of, like, like, I love, the excitement of meeting new people. I like the excitement of connecting with new people, and I really like, I feel like when my own efforts create, like from cold call to quote to processing and then closing a deal, like, wow, like I'm like, wow, that was a build, right? The same, like building a team that you're describing. I'm like, that was a build. That was something that did not exist. This was a relationship that did not exist. And now it does. And the only person that can take credit for that is me. Like, I take a lot of pride in that, being like, that would not have happened if I did not initiate this.
Yeah, I feel that too. There's a different sense of ownership when you're successful in an existing ecosystem that you took over versus building it. And you're like, I built it. And when I didn't really fully take in that fact for myself until sometime in the last couple years, but really probably like last year when I was on sabbatical number 2, traveling around and thinking about what's the next step, where do I want to go, and had some more like self-congratulations, not the best way to put it because it wasn't an ego thing, but like, yeah, like I'm a builder, there's something to it, seeing it in a distinct way compared to inheriting and doing a good job with that, which, both have their own difficulties and pros and cons, right? But the building side, it is kind of sweet to be able to, at scale, look at something that you've built, the people that have come on and grown and developed, and you've been able to, help be another resource for them to get to where they want to go.
Yeah. Well, because I think that's a really, that's almost like the elephant in the room when you think about the moving into management and like which track you want to be on, especially at that first kind of rung, where maybe you're, just sales manager or something like that, right? You go from managing and developing client relationships to managing and developing employee relationships and how those are different. So what are your takeaways on, like, what are those biggest differences? Like, how do you see those as separate, or are they more the same than they seem? Like, what's your take?
Yeah, I think they're pretty distinct because, like, the folks you're working with, people on your team, if you have a team, like, you really over time get to know them deeply. You should get to know them deeply. Like, what are their true motivators, true goals? What does their life look like? Are they a young 20-something dude, like, having fun, slinging deals in life, or, wife and kids and white picket fence and taking kids to and from stuff? Like, really trying to get to know people. That helps influence just your relationship and how you can help them develop and grow. So I think they're distinct, like client relationship versus a direct report relationship. I think what I like about the direct report side is inevitably you get to know people a lot better than you can generally on the client side. You're just spending way more time with this person.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Very often you're going to be sitting face to face with them for extended periods of time. Even with, really close clients, you're probably not going to get that kind of exposure.
Yeah, it takes a lot more time to get to that depth with an external relationship, but really getting to know your people, and that helps influence everything, like an interaction with them, like, being perceptive to who reacts well to and who needs a foot up the ass versus people who that they beat themselves up in their head more than you ever could.
Right.
I fall in that category for sure. And I think I'm very fortunate to have a leadership structure that sees that. And it's like, this dude loses sleep constantly, right. Just like always wanting to drive. And so it's like, I put that on myself. And that influences too. Like, if you have someone who is of that nature, it's like you want to be particular with how you have certain conversations just to make sure you meet people where they're at, right? And some people need a foot up the tail. Some people get it, know it, and it just has to be a check the box conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point, because like there definitely are some similarities in like the client relationship manager, like meeting people where they're at. Another one that I always come back to is, say what you mean and mean what you say. Like if you stick to your, not stick to your guns per se, but if you just, are really constantly, almost irritatingly, straight up with what you say and how you deliver it. I think that works well across those types of relationships. And I think another skill that you can take away from the client relationship side, if you're in the position where you're considering making that changeover, is over communication. Because I think that's something that you can obviously lose deals over, but I don't even know if I would go so far as to say that, like, if there's sort of that adequate level of that bare minimum level of communication to where, you can still win deals, but then there's the level of over communication that differentiates you from your competition and anyone else that might be trying to take your client's bandwidth. And if you can apply that same skill set, right? Tell them again. It just so much for people that are new and coming on, and you're kind of going through like a training onboarding phase, just that constant repetition. I've just seen time and time again, not in some cases from my experience, but sometimes secondhand, just watching and observing what's going on. That can be a real big difference maker. And I think that works in both of those types of relationships. You have to educate clients, right? Sometimes we're educators first and sellers second. And I think that gets amplified in the employee management side and the direct report relationships, where it's just constant education.
Yeah. Yeah. And two, like if you end up going the leadership track, I didn't really appreciate this until I went through the journey. Like it's just a completely different ball game in terms of types of problems, projects. It really, as capable of a salesperson as one could be, whenever you move over to the leadership side, like there's a lot of overlap, but there's a lot of distinctive stuff. And so, you're thinking about, as a sales rep, how do I get more deals? How do my phone calls go? When you move into the leadership, like my first couple of leadership roles, I started to get involved with marketing, get involved with the executive team. And so like all these things are very different. Like pitching to the executive team during their weekly, like that's something that's a very different environment than anything you've experienced up until that point. You might have been at a company for a while, and then you're in a room where power dynamics, decision making, like scrutiny, like everything's different. The stakes are different. And then on the project side, like conferences, web marketing, back to the control freak piece. Like we went through a website design at one point, and it's like, what should the buttons look like? Should they be rectangles? Should they have curved edges? Should it be a circle? What should the text be? Should it be all caps or not?
Right.
Where should the button be? Like,
all of a sudden, these details start to become like pretty overwhelming, and people get tied to certain things, and that I think really comes down to understanding the personalities in the room, and understanding if the people that you're dealing with are the types of people that are going to get hung up over, something that seems, in the grand scheme of things, not the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah, that's fair. My counter would be, the sum of those parts is meaningful. So it's like if I can think through, this is the silliest example, but that button example, like if I think through everything with the level of depth that I think through even the shape of a button on a website, then I can walk away from this project and go like, I gave it my all. I tried to attack everything from every angle. And to your point, like curved versus round edge isn't going to be the difference maker, but that level of detail orientedness applied to everything, like, all right, we should come away with a sweet product at the end of this.
And that's why you're the consummate sales leader that you are.
I have paintings of other people here. I need a painting of myself. That's the one thing that's missing from the wall.
It's going to get real Napoleonic.
That would be.
I might throw a flag on that one. So something that popped in my head just now, is, we've kind of talked about the hypothetical of like someone that's kind of like looking at this, at the relatively early end of their career. And something that's, have seen before and interested on your thoughts on this, but someone who's been sort of a career lone wolf and is now getting brought into management, right? If you've spent 10 plus years in the field as, kind of a solo outside sales, kind of eat what you kill person, like, do you think that the wolf can join the pack? That I have thought about more and more, especially as my time as an outside salesperson grew longer and longer. And you start going, it's like, if I ever wanted to, like, is it possible for, someone that's been out in the field for 10 plus years, to be a productive leader in that more traditional sense?
Yeah. It's kind of like, you're coming out of the field. You've been a troop in the field, and now you're putting on the dress blues and are on the decision-making side. And I think the first thing you have to do is really take yourself out of the equation. One part of your brain has to go like, I don't matter anymore, in the sense that I'm not producing alone. If you're not a producing manager, if you're in straight leadership role. So it's like, I now get results through other people. So my focus becomes these people. How do I get everyone here to be the best version of themselves so that they can be successful? And I'm a big believer in coach up, coach out, right? You try to catch consistency or slips in production that happen early on. To your point about communicate. You don't wait until the second or third bad month to ask about the month. Like, get an understanding. And so, yeah, taking yourself out of the equation in that sense that, from where you sit, everything beneath you, like, you're getting results through there. And at the same time, you have the structure above you and alongside you where you're producing on the strategy side and answering these questions. How do we get more leads in the door? How do we get better leads in the door? Make better use of conferences, marketing. What do we need? What does it need to look like? So you're kind of torn between those two worlds of like all the way deal level, sometimes up to the people side. And then you have strategy and everything else, which all that combined, I think, is a big piece of why I love the leadership side. It's like the constant chaos of it. You're pulled in a bunch of directions. It's like there's never a boring day.
As you get to flex a lot more intellectual muscle versus strictly running in the production path. But I think all of what you hit on is really helpful, and kind of like if you're the lone wolf re-entering the pack, and you feel like you're sort of surrendering some control to these other people, because now you are responsible for them. Your livelihood rests on them, whereas before it was up to you. How much you want to earn, how much you want to work, that was all up to you and in your control. And I think everything you just said reframes it to be, it's not on your direct reports, it's still on you to make sure that you are ensuring that they execute to whatever, your standards are.
Yeah. Big believer in that. Like, everything, buck stops with you. If someone is not producing, that stops with you. It's your responsibility to figure out the why, give them the tools and guidance they need to get on track. And if they consistently fail to do that, then your responsibility is, you coach them out. Yeah, I think it was a book. I didn't read it, but Leaders Eat Last.
I'm familiar with the title.
Yeah.
I've not read it, but
yeah, while not reading it, I think like a lot of that fits into the leadership methodology that we've talked about.
To shed some of that identity almost as, like the warrior coming in with the bloodied sword and, accepting that the sword is now going in the sheath and you're not really the sword anymore. You are now the shield, or at least in large part, right? That's kind of how it's probably the cleanest, the most elegant analogy I could make there, and really being a damn good shield.
Yeah, but don't let the kids get it twisted. Like Inner Sandman comes on and the closer will come out of the bullpen in a heartbeat.
I mean, you got to let them know who's boss.
Yeah.
got to let them know that daddy can still close.
Why don't you throw a call for all three of us on the calendar? I'll hop on there.
There you go. Nothing feels better than coming in as the third closer and helping someone new lock down the deal.